Hi there. Okay, so from the title, I'm sure you know what to expect. This is me rearranging my Jawbreaker palette to be a true rainbow palette. Right now, all I'm doing is quickly making a grid to lay out the shadows in the final order that I want them to be in. I can't take any credit at all for the layout or the idea. I saw a photo on Instagram from an account called Tink's Beauty Diary. I will put the link to that photo that you can see me referring to on my laptop. I'll put it down below. But yeah, I saw that and I was just like, yes, I want that in my life. Now I've tried to make this video half a tutorial and half just for entertainment. So I will talk about tips and tricks and things that I've learned along the way and what I'd do differently if I was doing this again. So if that's not what you're here for, feel free to mute this and pop on your favourite music while you enjoy. I will start by apologising. My head gets in the way of a lot of this, but hopefully I've cut out enough that it's not too annoying and you can see the majority of what's going on anyway. It's just kind of unfortunate with the nature of this project. You kind of need to be quite delicate with it, I suppose. So it's not really one that I could sit back in my chair or that I felt comfortable with anyway, sitting back in my chair and trying to work with my arms at a distance. Essentially, this is all just excuses. Like, I'm just not good at making videos. I was just doing it. Is the truth. But yeah, you do need to be quite delicate if you're doing this for yourself. I think that the pans are relatively lightweight, so if they do bend and warp too much, the whole shadow just bends and warps with it and ends up popping out and just sending bits of shadow everywhere, which is not ideal. You don't want to be wasting product if you can avoid it. And also, if there's any shaking in this video, I'm sorry about that as well. I thought I'd bought a really good tripod, but didn't think about the practicalities of it, and it's actually just really shaky and not the best. I've tried my best to fix it in post, but I mean, I'm a crafter, not a filmmaker, so I'm sorry. Anyway, right now we're getting into the good bit, doing some depotting. So I'm just quickly showing you right at the start that I have already lifted out the shade Sour because I just wanted to see how easily the pans would come out. And that was really the one that I was least bothered about destroying and it turning out absolutely terribly. But I did put it back in place for this because, to be honest, I appreciate how unsatisfying it is to look at the palette with just that one random shade in the middle missing. As you can see right at the start, as I'm putting in the first few shades, I'm like, where is this supposed to go? Like, where is its little slot? Until you kind of build up more and more shades, it's like, what? It's hard to get an idea of where it kind of belongs and then work it out from there. In terms of tools, I am quite fortunate that I happen to have quite a large crafting supply at my disposal. I think what I ended up using, I'm pretty sure, is actually a dental tool. I, to be honest, borrowed it from my mum who uses it for cake decorating. Yes, we are that obnoxiously artsy family. Basically, what I'm saying is do not spend £12 or whatever it is, the ridiculous price for that Z palette tool. Not worth it. I don't think that would have even fit in the sides of the pans in this palette. They are in there pretty tight, certainly compared to blood sugar anyway. How do I know that? Well, that's a whole other video that you're just gonna have to watch. Okay, so what I am using is a tool that's got a really quite thin head on it that kind of looks like the tip of an arrow, really. I will try my best to find something similar on Amazon. We'll see how that goes. And all I'm doing to get the pans out is kind of digging the tip of that tool right into the corner of the pans. They're all a little bit like rounded squares. So that's where the biggest gap is, to really jam it in and then kind of lever it up and then try and almost like saw all the way around the pan to lift it all up. Because basically the base is cardboard, so what's happening is the glue is still staying stuck to the bottom of the pan. As you can see, I kind of peel bits of cardboard off the bottom that have been stuck to the base after lifting them out. That doesn't bother me because it's all getting covered up when the pans are back in, but if it does bother you, I don't know, maybe you could use the hot plate method, but honestly I don't even own straighteners. As you can see from my hair being in all the shots, I have very curly hair, so I really don't know how that would go for you. I have never tried that, to be honest. This is actually my first time debottling anything, so you know, I'm just making it up as I go along, but it worked out fine. And if you hadn't noticed already, I was so into the zone and into my little rhythm of pulling all the pans out that I removed one of the only two that end up staying in the original slot. Super annoying at the time, but never mind, these things happen. So now I'm gluing the pans back in. I got so excited over this step that this is where I've made my first few mistakes. One, I did put glue into the little slots before I even started filming, and two, I decided that I wanted to make new labels for the shades so that they're all correct once they're back in. If you're going to do this, do that step first, because you'll see later the struggle that I have trying to place and varnish the labels once the shadows are already in. Plus, it's just a bit unsafe. You really shouldn't be putting products on your eyes that have potentially been contaminated with Mod Podge, obviously. But, oh well, I'll take that risk for the sake of ease and speed, but if you can avoid it, please do. Just a quick note about that first shade, which is Licorice. Again, on a sanitary note, I tried to push the pans back in, or that pan I suppose, I tried to push it back in with the other end of the tool that I was using to pull them out originally, but it ended up just making more of it crack, and as you will see, I did need to repress a few of the shades after. Again, I think if I was doing this again, I would repress the shades first and then put them back in, but essentially in this step I found that it's easier to just press the pans back in with my finger and clean it off in between. Again, probably should have worn gloves for that to be a bit more sanitary, but I'm the only one using this palette, so I don't care. I've finger swatched them all already, so what's the difference really? You will most likely notice that I'm not the most professional crafter. I do things for my own personal satisfaction, not just to make a video. As far as I'm concerned, that's a bonus to share tips I would have liked to have before I did this. So a lot of my decisions and corner cutting comes down to that's good enough for me. If you have the time to do everything more precisely than me, then more power to you. I would love to see how yours turns out. Okay, I'm gonna shut up quickly for a second while you can watch the last row coming out in real time. I have sped up some bits just where it's like a lot of the same thing, but I do try to leave important steps like this, showing you some of it in real time at least. So this is a very quick zip through my first attempt at rearranging the shade names. As I said, I did end up taking, or did I say? I don't know. Anyway, basically I do end up taking this all off and starting again. There was just shadow everywhere that got into the Mod Podge that I was using to sort of seal the top of it. And the ink actually just bled anyway from like the printer ink. It's clearly not the best. So for that one, that was not good enough for me, so I did want to do it again. In the meantime, I repressed the shades. Now, unfortunately, I do get my head entirely in the way while I show you how I got all of the shades out of the palette once they were put back in. Again, that's why you should probably repress them before you put it in, but you live and learn. Or I do anyway. So basically, all I did was put a little bit of cellophane on top of the shadows, close the lid, turn it over with the lid still closed, and then reopened it upside down so that all the shades have tipped out and you can just sort of slide the palette out of the way. I was about to say the pan out of the way, that doesn't make any sense. I didn't really want to scrape out the whole pan of shadow if it wasn't necessary. I didn't want to make a massive mess and lose loads of shadow, so I tried to just press the broken stuff back on top of the intact shadows, and it worked for the most part once I figured out how to do that. But the reds I did end up repressing twice. All of what I do in this step looks incredibly dodge. All I have to say is don't ask me why I know how to do that. All I'm using is another one of those dental tools, and yes, my student sports union card or whatever it is. I don't know, I don't go to uni anymore. Long forgotten about that, but I used to use that to do like a really straight line for winged eyeliner, and it's just sort of stayed in my makeup tool, and now use it to do my what's that called? Lower lash line. That's what it's called. I don't know, I just do it. There you go, in case you wanted to know. It's quite a good trick. You can also use a tissue, I believe. I don't know, I picked it up from Wayne Goss, who, by the way, love him. Absolutely great. Anyway, so, yes, as I was saying, I was using one of those other dental tools to sort of mix up the shades, and yes, I did line my desk with cellophane as well, but I mean, just do whatever works for you for repressing. I have never done this before, so I didn't have any good containers to do it in, like those little plastic cups, but I figured this would give me a lot of room to work with and I could just work on my desk. And it did work out, so I'm sticking by it. By the time I got to Cherry Wet, I knew I needed to completely repress the shade, which I was kind of nervous about because it's one of my top 3 favourites in this palette. The other 2 are Fuck and Gumdrop, in case you're wondering. So I really didn't want to ruin it, which, to be honest, I absolutely did. It's now entirely solid, and you can't pick up any product with a brush, although I can scrape the top of it with some sort of tool and it releases a bit of powder, so it's fine. It's just a shame that it was one of my favourites. I'm assuming that's because it was one of the pressed pigments that it didn't work, because the others turned out fine. But anyway, nothing can be changed about that now. After doing Cherry Wet, I did go back and repress all of Licorice too, because I could tell that the repressed layer wasn't sticking properly, and I thought, what is the point of repressing part of it if it's just gonna break off the first time that I use it and have made no difference to repressing it, or if I, hadn't even repressed it in the first place. Although I did get away with that method for all of the other shades. What I did to make it work is using a little bit of alcohol to soak the shade that was still in the pan, or the powder that was still in the pan, and making the repressed shadow quite watery, so all sort of welds together in the pan again. I'm sure there are some repressing experts out there who are horrified by what I've done just now, but it worked for me, so, you know, I'm not changing it. Now, I don't think I ever finished talking about the tools I've been using. Again, I borrowed some of those dental tools from my mother. I started by using one of also my mum's hypodermic needles that she uses for insulin. I swear it's for insulin, has insulin printed on it. It's not for anything else. And when I say borrowed, I do of course mean I took it and will dispose of it, not give it back to her covered in eyeshadow. But yes, I started using that to dispense the alcohol, but also grabbed a straw, reusable of course, to show you that you can do it without the needle, and it turned out that actually just using the straw worked better anyway because of the sort of volume of liquid that I needed, and the fact that I am super impatient and couldn't be bothered pulling up hundreds of times out of my little bottle of alcohol. So for anyone who doesn't know how to pick up and dispense liquid from a straw, it's really easy. All you do is pop the straw into the liquid as deep as you want, you know, to get the right amount of liquid. So for anyone who doesn't know how to pick up and dispense the liquid from a straw, it's really easy. All you do is pop the straw into the liquid as deep as you want to sort of pick up that volume of liquid. You put your finger over the top of the straw while it's still in the liquid, hold on tight, lift the straw out, and then you sort of drip the liquid out by releasing your finger off the top. It's all about vacuum suction or something like that, I think. I don't know anything about physics. That's not what we're here to talk about. Now that that's done, here I'm removing those original labels, and in a second you'll see me start making new ones. I tried to find the closest matching font that I could to the original, but after searching for a while with really no realistic results, I realised I wasn't that bothered, so ended up going with one called Oswald, which you can find on Google Docs. It's one of their standard fonts if you're doing this yourself, so it's definitely accessible to everyone. I think I used size 10, but do check the measurements yourself just to be sure. To be honest, I'm not that happy with the sizing of my labels anyway, so, you know, see what works for you, test it out. But yeah, I'd already scrapped one attempt. I wasn't going to do it again. That'll do for me. Now I do cut out my labels and put them through my sticker maker. That's an entirely unnecessary step now that I'm thinking about it, but I just love using that machine, to be honest. It's so handy. I've had that exact same thing for probably like 15 years. Still going strong. No idea if you can buy refills for it, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Shout out to you, Xyron. Great product. Anyway, yes, you don't need to do that step by any means. I used Mod Podge to seal the labels in, and I believe you can use that as glue too. As a side note, I am British, so I'm new to Mod Podge. Is it basically just PVA glue? Because I feel like I've been scammed if it is. And also, why does it smell so bad? It's so strong. I do not like it. Anyway, in a minute it will cut back to me making yet another sticker for absolutely no reason. That is intentional. Certainly in the editing of this video. In real life, it's just because I'm a complete idiot and forgot to print out a label for one of the shades. So once the clear coat on top of the labels is dried, that's it really. This is just me uncovering the mirror and showing you some shots of the finished product. So I hope you enjoyed my little adventure into customizing my Jawbreaker palette. If you are doing this yourself, I hope it turns out amazing. Genuinely do send me some photos. I would love to see it. I just think it looks so much more satisfying being arranged by colour. And if you are doing this yourself, or if not, I suppose, if you have any questions, please fire them down below and I will do my best to help. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye!